Claire was never a forgetful person. Organized, structured, dependable. Those were the words that came to mind when I thought of her. She color-coded our calendars, made packing lists for weekend trips, and once scheduled a dentist appointment for me without asking, just because she noticed it had been too long. That's the kind of person she was. So when she told me about a 3-day business trip to Seattle, supposedly for a regional leadership summit, it wasn't the trip itself that caught me off guard. It was her attitude. She barely mentioned it until 2 days before. No packing list, no pre-travel stress. No remind me to call the pet sitter, or can you water the plants while I'm gone? Just a casual line as we were brushing our teeth one night. Oh, by the way, I'll be in Seattle next week, Tuesday to Friday. Work thing. And that was it. I remember freezing mid-brush. You didn't tell me about that. She shrugged. It just came up. That was lie number 1. Claire didn't just came up. She planned everything from meetings to movie nights down to the hour. I didn't say anything then, though. I rinsed, toweled off, kissed her goodnight. But my gut already knew something was off. The day she left, she was unusually light. Not distracted or nervous, light. Like she was floating. She tossed her carry-on in the back of her car, kissed me twice on the lips, and told me not to forget to pick up the dry cleaning. Then she was gone. Not once did she check her phone while pulling out of the driveway, and when I texted her 2 hours later to say I hoped her flight went well, the message sat undelivered for the next day and a half. She eventually responded on Thursday morning. Hey, sorry, service was spotty and we were locked into a workshop all day. Heading into the city later with the team. Hope you're having a good week. Red heart. The message felt wrong. Too cheerful. Too generic. Like it was written by someone performing normal. I didn't reply. I just stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard, then locked the screen and set the phone face down. Something was off. I couldn't explain it. Just this slow, simmering discomfort in my chest. That night I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept drifting back to her voice the morning she left. The way she tossed the trip out there like it didn't matter. The smile that lingered just a little too long after she hugged me goodbye. Not nervous. Not burdened. Excited. That's when the idea hit me. I had a meeting in Tacoma scheduled for Thursday, just a quick check-in with a regional client. Seattle wasn't far. A 45-minute drive, tops. And the hotel she'd mentioned? The Springwater Grand? I figured I could swing by after the meeting. Maybe surprise her. Say hi. Maybe catch dinner if she wasn't too busy. I even picked up her favorite snack from the grocery store. Those overpriced chocolate-covered almonds she always called her conference fuel. It wasn't about suspicion at that point. It was instinct. A need to see for myself that everything was fine. That I was just being paranoid. That Claire was still the person I knew. Only she wasn't at the Springwater Grand. The front desk attendant, a soft-spoken young woman with tired eyes, smiled politely when I asked if Claire was registered. Sorry, sir. There's no reservation under that name. I double-checked the spelling, tried her maiden name, even asked if maybe it was listed under her employer. Still nothing. I stood there, half laughing to myself, trying to rationalize. Maybe the company booked under someone else's name. Maybe she was using a work alias, whatever that even meant. Maybe she'd changed hotels last minute. People do that, right? I walked out into the street, frustrated but not ready to give up. And that's when I saw him, across the intersection, standing just inside the glassy lobby of the hotel directly opposite the Springwater. The Halston was Thomas Jennings, Claire's boss. He was dressed too casually for business, no tie, top 2 shirt buttons undone, and in his hands were 2 glasses of wine. Not the kind you grab on the way to a group mixer. No, these were delicate, expensive-looking stems filled with something deep red. Something meant for slow sipping. Beside him, tucked half into his jacket pocket, was a keycard. Room access. At first, I didn't register who he was. I just noticed the familiarity in his posture, the ease in his face. But then he looked up, and his eyes locked on mine. That's when it clicked. I recognized that look. Recognition. And panic. His body stiffened almost imperceptibly. A half second of hesitation. Then, without a word, he turned, walked briskly toward the elevators, and disappeared inside. I didn't move. I didn't cross the street. I didn't follow him. I just stood there on the sidewalk, hands in my jacket pockets, trying to remember how to breathe. I should have gone home right then. Should have taken the hint and started putting the pieces together. But instead, I wandered, walked around the block 3 times, passing the Halston again and again, waiting to see if she'd appear in the lobby. She never did. When I got back to my hotel in Tacoma, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, phone clutched in one hand, debating whether to send another, "Hope you're doing okay," text just to see if she'd lie to me again. I didn't send it. She returned Friday afternoon, breezing through the front door like nothing had happened. Hair curled, luggage clean, wearing a new leather jacket I'd never seen before. She smelled like the Halston's lobby. Faint perfume, linen, and something else I couldn't name. I kissed her cheek, and she smiled like nothing was off. We had dinner that night, pasta, wine, the usual weekend routine. She told me about the workshops, the breakouts, the keynote speaker who didn't shut up. I nodded, smiled, even laughed once or twice. But inside, I was screaming. Toward the end of the meal, I finally dropped it. "I was in Seattle this week," I said, keeping it casual. "Had a client meeting in Tacoma. Thought about stopping by your hotel, actually." She didn't miss a beat, but she did stop chewing. "You didn't tell me you had a meeting up there. It was last minute." Her eyes narrowed just slightly. "And you were going to stop by my hotel? Why?" I shrugged. "I had time. Thought it might be nice to say hi." That's when it happened. Her posture stiffened. Her face didn't change, not really, but her tone did. Sharpened. Like she had flipped a switch. "Nathan, that's not okay. You can't just show up like that." "I didn't," I said carefully. "I was going to, but I didn't. I figured you were busy." "That's not the point." Her voice was icy now, measured. "It's about trust. About boundaries. You don't get to check up on me because you're having some insecurity moment. That's not healthy." I blinked. "I wasn't checking up on you." "Then what were you doing?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Because it sounds a lot like stalking." I froze. Did she just call me a stalker? For thinking about visiting my wife during a business trip? Somehow, by the end of that conversation, I was the one on defense. She was pacing now, laying out how violated she felt. How this wasn't the first time she'd felt monitored. How she needed space to be trusted. I listened. I nodded. I even apologized, though I didn't know what for. What I didn't say, what I couldn't say, was that I'd seen Thomas Jennings in the lobby across the street, holding 2 glasses of wine. That he saw me first. That he ran. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I knew. Whatever game was being played, she had already rehearsed her lines. And I had just stumbled into Act 1. After Seattle, things didn't go back to normal. They just got quieter. And quieter is worse than yelling. Claire acted like the whole hotel thing never happened. Like she hadn't accused me of stalking her. Like the sudden fire in her eyes that night, the way she turned the blame around so effortlessly, was just a blip. A moment. A misunderstanding. She brought home Thai food the next night. Told me she missed me. Asked if I'd watched the finale of the show we were supposed to watch together. I said no, and she smiled like everything was fine. But it wasn't. Something had cracked. In the days that followed, I tried to shake it off. I really did. I told myself maybe I was reading too much into things. That maybe I'd imagined Thomas in that lobby. That maybe there was a perfectly normal reason her name wasn't on the hotel registry. But denial doesn't last long when you're sleeping next to a stranger. And the more I tried to let it go, the more things started coming back to me. Things I hadn't questioned at the time, but now glowed like hazard signs in my memory. Little things. Like how, 2 months ago, Claire disabled our location sharing on her phone. Said it was for safety reasons after a coworker got stalked. I remember her words exactly. "We should all be more private these days." I didn't argue. Why would I? I trusted her. Trusted her completely. Or the sudden increase in trips, work-related, of course. Conferences. Off-site brainstorms. Leadership retreats. Always during the week. always just far enough away to require a hotel stay. Once or twice she came back with branded notebooks and lanyards, like props from a play she was starring in. But when I asked what the sessions were about, her answers were vague. Strategy alignment, cross-functional insights, corporate gibberish that meant nothing. And then there was the wardrobe. Claire had always had a clean, minimalist style. Simple pieces, muted tones. But sometime in late spring, that started to shift. New lingerie, still in the tissue paper, tucked quietly into drawers. Silk camisoles, lace bodysuits. A red dress, she said, was for a gala that never actually happened. It was subtle, but I noticed. I told myself she just wanted to feel good about herself. That maybe she was trying to rediscover some confidence. But even that didn't feel right. There were the shoes, too. A pair of stilettos she swore she bought on clearance but came from a boutique downtown I know she's never stepped foot in. The price tags were gone, but I saw the receipt. Buried in a coat pocket. $600. She never mentioned it again. Her phone was another story. Always face down. Always on silent. She started locking it more often, even at home. She used to hand it to me to play music while she cooked. That stopped. Then she started taking it into the bathroom. Into the laundry room. Once, she took it into the garage when she needed to make a quick call. And maybe the worst part, she started disappearing from herself. Her social media, which used to be full of random snaps, coffee cups, sunsets, brunch with friends, started looking curated, scrubbed. No more tags. No more locations. Just filtered photos that could have been taken anywhere. Captions like, chasing clarity or new chapters. Paired with black and white **TS of cityscapes. Artsy. Empty. Impersonal. I didn't recognize the woman in those photos. And then there were the nights. God, the nights. She stopped coming to bed at the same time as me. She'd stay downstairs watching TV or reading on the couch. Said she needed to unplug before sleeping. But sometimes I'd wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. and hear her whispering into the phone down the hallway. Once I crept halfway down the stairs and caught just 2 words before she paused. Miss you. She said it softly, like she was scared to say it at all. I never brought it up. I told myself it could have been her sister, or her mom, but the tone, it was different, familiar, *mate. And when I walked into the kitchen 10 minutes later, pretending to get water, she jumped like she'd seen a ghost. Oh, hey, she stammered. Did I wake you? I didn't say anything. I just poured the water and drank it in silence while she avoided my eyes. After that, the image of Thomas Jennings standing in that hotel lobby became a kind of ghost in my mind. I kept replaying that moment, the look he gave me. Not surprised. Not curious. Guilty. That's what haunted me. One night, I opened my laptop and started going through our shared credit card statements. It felt wrong. Like snooping. But something told me I wasn't going to sleep until I knew. That's when I saw the first one. A hotel charge in Portland 3 weeks ago. Havenly Suites. Claire said she was at a training event that week in Eugene, 2 hours away. The charge didn't match. Then another, a restaurant in San Diego, same night she claimed she was in Phoenix. Then another, this time for a boutique flower shop in Vancouver, where she said she never left the hotel because of food poisoning. That one stung the most. My heart raced. I kept scrolling. More inconsistencies. More unspoken stories hidden between transactions. Ubers to neighborhoods she didn't mention. Coffee shops blocks away from her supposed conferences. I started **ting everything. Not for revenge, not yet. But because I knew I'd forget. I needed proof. Something solid. Something that wasn't just a gut feeling or a hunch. And as I sat there, piecing together her movements, matching them against her stories, it hit me. This wasn't chaos. It was a pattern. A carefully rehearsed, tightly managed script designed to keep me believing. Even the way she talked started to feel fake. She'd smile and ask about my day, but her eyes would scan her phone. She'd laugh at my jokes a second too late. She'd say, I love you, like it was part of a routine. Once, she came home with a tiny silver bracelet she said was a gift from a coworker. It was engraved with a small star. I asked who gave it to her. She said, Maya from HR. I smiled. But I remembered Maya from the holiday party. The woman hated jewelry. I went to bed that night feeling like I was slowly waking up from a dream I didn't know I was in. And then came the dreams. Vivid, intense ones. Claire laughing in someone else's arms. Me chasing her down a hallway that never ended. Thomas opening a hotel room door with her standing behind him in silence. I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding, reaching for her, only to find her side of the bed cold and empty. It got so bad I started staying up late just to avoid sleeping. I took on extra work, organized the garage, cleaned the gutters at 1 a.m. Claire called it manic nesting. I called it staying sane. Because the truth is, once suspicion starts living inside you, it eats everything else. Trust, joy, Macy, sleep, all of it gets replaced with this constant low buzz. Like your mind won't let you relax because it knows something is about to fall apart. And no matter how many times she smiled or curled up next to me on the couch or sent a kiss emoji from her car, I couldn't ignore the voice in my head anymore. Something was broken. Not just bent, broken. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how far this went. But I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew what I saw in that lobby. And every memory that came after only confirmed what I didn't want to admit. I wasn't living in a marriage anymore. I was living in a performance. And she had the lead role. Up until then, everything I had was circumstantial. The strange timing, the missing receipts, the shadowy business trips and late-night calls. Her boss disappearing into an elevator like he'd seen a ghost. It was all smoke. Thick and choking, sure, but smoke. What I needed now was fire. I wasn't even trying to find confirmation that day. I remember that clearly. It was a Wednesday afternoon, warm outside, mid-autumn. I had taken a walk to clear my head. We hadn't fought that week, but we also hadn't connected. Claire was out of town again, training in Sacramento, and I was home with a week's worth of silence and a mind playing reruns of the past 6 months. I stopped at a bookstore on a whim. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just avoiding going home. That's when I saw the message. An old coworker of Claire's, Alicia, messaged me on Instagram. We'd only met twice, briefly. She moved to another division out of state, but I remembered her. She always struck me as someone who noticed everything, even if she didn't say much. She'd liked one of my posts a few days before, an old picture of Claire and me at the coast, taken during what I now recognized as one of those trips she almost didn't show up for. Her message was short. Hey, I've been sitting on this for a while, but after seeing your photo, I think you deserve to know. Claire hasn't been honest with you about a lot, especially her business travel. My heart didn't drop. It froze. I didn't respond right away. I stood there in the middle of the nonfiction aisle, thumb hovering over my phone, reading the message again and again. Then I replied with the only thing I could think of. Can you explain? Please. She responded almost instantly. I don't know the full story, but I know she's been using PTO, not work trips. I saw the HR system when I was still at the company. The dates she said she was out for offsites? She wasn't scheduled for any events. No summits, no conferences. It was just personal leave. I swallowed hard. My throat felt dry. Was she with someone? A long pause. I didn't want to assume, but yeah, she was with Jennings. At least twice I know of. Both times she booked rooms under his name at the Halston. Not hers. I only know because I used to help manage the company rewards program, and loyalty bookings show guest details. I remember staring at that message for so long my phone dimmed. Thomas Jennings. The man in the lobby with the wine glasses. The guy who smiled at our anniversary party last year and complimented Claire's dress. The man who once emailed me about a charity fundraiser and signed off with, "You've got a great one. Keep her close." That man. I asked Alicia to send me anything she had. I didn't push. I didn't demand. But 5 minutes later, she sent *TS. Not damning, but enough to shake the ground under my feet. Hotel reservations for rooms booked under Thomas J. in cities that overlapped perfectly with Claire's off-site leadership events. Dates, confirmation numbers, check-in times. Some had loyalty points. Some even had receipts for 2 dinners, billed to the room. Each one paired with a trip Claire had taken. All wrapped in corporate excuses. Each one a lie. And suddenly, all the little things I had tried to file away. The red dress, the missing hotel booking, the face-down phone, the look in Jennings' eyes. They weren't random anymore. They were coordinated. Intentional. This wasn't emotional drift. This wasn't 2 people growing apart or a marriage struggling under the weight of time. It wasn't about neglect or miscommunication or any of the soft reasons you reach for when you're scared to admit the hard ones. It was an affair. A full-on, methodical, well-rehearsed, 2-person operation. And I had walked right into it. I remember sitting in my car for over an hour, parked under a tree across from that same bookstore. Just still, watching people pass by, living their normal lives, completely unaware that mine had just cracked open. The word affair felt so clinical, too small. This was a betrayal that had layers. Logistics, cover stories, versions of reality that she built piece by piece, brick by brick, while I watered the garden and made her coffee. And now I knew, not suspected, not theorized, knew. The first thing I did was forward the **TS to an encrypted folder I'd recently set up. Not on our shared drive, but my own. I didn't plan to use them for anything yet. I just didn't want to lose them. That night, I went back and pulled our calendar history, the joint one we used for travel, family birthdays, appointments. I matched every trip Claire had for work against those reservations Alicia sent. The alignment was exact. Eugene, San Diego, Portland, Denver. Every city was matched with Jennings' name. Same dates, same chain of hotels. Sometimes different floors, sometimes adjacent rooms. A few had duplicate Uber charges. 2 drop-offs, minutes apart, both to the same address. She hadn't even tried to hide it that well. She just made it seem normal enough to avoid scrutiny. But I hadn't been looking, not until now. I kept thinking about one specific night 2 months ago. Claire had come home late from a strategy summit. She said the hotel lost her room key and she'd been up dealing with management for hours. She was exhausted, didn't even take her shoes off, just fell asleep on the couch. That night, I tucked a blanket over her and kissed her forehead, whispered, "You work too hard." I'd meant it, but now I couldn't stop wondering if Jennings had been the one who actually wore her out that night, and I was just the guy who cleaned up after it. My emotions flipped constantly. Rage, numbness, sadness, shame, anger again. Not just at her, at myself, for not seeing it, for defending her, for apologizing when she flipped the script and told me I had violated her trust just for being nearby in Seattle. The truth is, she'd already left our marriage, quietly, casually, and just forgot to take her ring off. The next day, I sat at my desk pretending to answer emails while staring at the last photo we had taken together. A selfie at the airport before she left for a 3-day leadership intensive in Portland. She was smiling in it, hair pulled back, face clean, that soft blue cardigan I always loved. It was taken the same morning she checked into the Halston with Jennings. I stared at her face for so long I forgot to blink. And the cruelest part? She looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. Not guilty. Not distant. Not distracted. She looked like a woman walking into a weekend she was excited for. A weekend she had planned for. Not a wife stepping away from her husband, but a partner walking toward something else entirely. Something I hadn't been invited into. Something I hadn't even known existed. I scrolled back further, older photos. Birthday dinners. Beach trips. Random days at home. I tried to pinpoint the exact moment she started fading from us and stepping into this double life. But there was no single moment. There never is. It happens gradually. One lie. One excuse. One deleted message. One missed call that doesn't get returned. One business trip that turns into 2. Then 10. Until suddenly the woman you swore you knew becomes someone you can't even recognize in your own photos. I closed the app. Sat there in the dark for hours. At 11:47 p.m. She texted me. Made it to the hotel. Exhausted. Long day. Love you. I stared at the message. Then I closed it. I didn't reply, because I finally understood something I'd been too afraid to say out loud. I wasn't losing her. I'd already lost her. She just hadn't told me yet. There's a moment when grief hardens into purpose. Not forgiveness. Not acceptance. Purpose. After Alicia's message, after those hotel records, I didn't confront Claire. Not yet. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't wake her up in the middle of the night demanding answers. That's not how this was going to go. She was still away that week. Sacramento? Though I now knew she was probably somewhere with Jennings. Another city, another set of lies. I spent those days alone in our house with my laptop, her paper trail, and a cup of coffee I kept forgetting to drink. Something in me had changed. Flipped. My hands were steady. My thoughts, sharper than they'd been in months. I wasn't chasing closure anymore. I was building a case. First, I opened the shared bank account. I downloaded every statement from the past year. Not just credit card transactions, checking, savings, anything that moved. Then I went through them line by line. Hotel names, Uber charges, out-of-state restaurants, flights I didn't know she booked. Anything that felt off. At first, it was just a trickle. A hotel in Boise she never mentioned. A two-person dinner at a steakhouse in Scottsdale. But the further back I scrolled, the more frequent they became. And then I started seeing patterns. Hotel chains repeated. Always the same type. Luxury, quiet, usually not far from airports. Loyalty rewards were being earned under her name, but the bookings weren't always in it. That's when I remembered Alicia's message. The system sometimes logged guest names, especially for multi-night stays. I logged into the loyalty program Claire had linked to her email and went looking. There it was. Thank you for your continued stays, Claire M. And Mr. Jennings. We look forward to hosting you again. I stared at the screen like it might change if I blinked long enough. Didn't. Mr. Jennings. Not even subtle. My heart didn't race. I didn't shake. I just opened a new folder on my drive and named it what it was. Evidence. Then I started saving everything. *TS. PDF statements. Calendar exports. I even created a spreadsheet to cross-reference her supposed destinations with actual charges, timestamped, categorized. It read like a tour schedule. Every summit matched a multi-day stay, often tagged with Jennings' name. Next, I checked her travel app. She'd logged in on my iPad once, months ago, and the session never signed out. It still worked. Flight confirmations, rental cars, trip notes. One line caught my eye. Add wine to room before arrival. 2 glasses, Merlot preferred. Portland, March 17th. That date hurt. That was our anniversary weekend. She told me she had to fly to a last-minute company retreat. Swore she'd make it up to me. I remember FaceTiming her that night. Candles lit behind me. Dinner half eaten. Pretending I was fine. She took the call in a dimly lit hotel room. No sound, just her. Hair down. Wrapped in what looked like a robe. She said she missed me. She told me she'd order room service and watch a movie alone. I believed her. But now I had the receipt, wine service for 2. Timestamped 2 hours before our call. The more I uncovered, the colder I got. Detached. Focused. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was strategy. A quiet war I hadn't declared, just prepared for. I started checking text syncs. We shared more devices than she realized, old habits from when things were simple. Her phone had been paired to our smart TV, and through that, to the house network. I dug into the logs. Tracked her locations when she connected to hotel Wi-Fi. The dates lined up. San Diego, Vancouver, Denver. Each trip lined up with hotel Wi-Fi pings. Some were under Jennings' Hilton account. Others under hers. But they were always close. Same places, same times. Every lie had a digital shadow. I exported the log, added it to the drive. She came home that Friday, waved at me from the car as she pulled into the driveway. Her luggage rolled smooth across the pavement. I stood in the kitchen pretending to read the news while she kissed my cheek and said, "God, it's good to be home." I didn't flinch. She talked about the conference like it was real. Said there was a panel on disruptive collaboration, whatever that means. I nodded, asked what the keynote was about. She said something vague about company culture. I asked if there were photos. She smiled, reached for her phone, then stopped. Oh, they had a no-phone policy during key sessions. Right. Of course they did. That night, we ordered pizza and watched a rom-com on the couch. She curled into me like she used to, laughing at all the right moments, wearing that old college sweatshirt she knew I loved. I stared at her, really stared, and for a second, I almost believed nothing had changed, that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe this version of her, the one smiling into my chest, was the real one. But then her phone buzzed. She didn't check it. She tilted it away and ignored it. That was all I needed. The next morning, while she was out jogging, I checked our storage bins in the garage. She kept a box labeled Work Archives. Old notebooks, project decks, printed itineraries. She never threw anything away. Inside, I found nothing related to any of the trips she'd mentioned in the last 6 months. No pamphlets, no badges, no flyers, just files from a year ago when she actually used to go to conferences. That box hadn't been touched in months. Later that day, she asked if I wanted to go out for dinner. Just us. We haven't really connected lately, she said. I nodded. We went to a little Italian place she liked. She held my hand across the table, told me she'd been thinking about starting a garden in the spring. She laughed when I asked if she knew how to keep basil alive. And the whole time she looked like my wife. That was the part that broke something in me. She still knew how to play the role. I spent the rest of the weekend triple-checking my documentation. Organized it by date, by city, by lie. I started writing a list of the stories she'd told, what she said when she said it, and what I now knew to be true. It was long. Then I called a lawyer. Quietly, privately, nothing official. I just asked what the process would look like if someone suspected infidelity and had collected proof. I told them I had documents, *TS, timelines. The attorney didn't ask how I got them. Just said, start backing it all up externally. So I did. Flash drives, cloud folders, an encrypted copy on a hard drive in my office safe. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't looking to burn it all down. I just wanted control. Because up until that point, she had it. She had controlled the story, the pace, the perception, and I had smiled through it, kissed her goodnight, and whispered, I love you, while she planned hotel bookings with another man. But that was over now. Every new fake summit she mentioned, I logged. Every booking that didn't align with her excuses, I filed. Every receipt, every digital breadcrumb, all of it went into the growing archive that would, eventually, become the truth. Undeniable, unshakable, concrete. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. You know it's going down, but you don't scream. You don't run. You take photos. You mark the cracks. You record the time the dust hits the air. Because when it finally falls, no one gets to say it was an accident. After weeks of collecting evidence, stacking timelines, and saving every tiny clue in hidden folders, something inside me clicked into place. Not rage, not grief, something colder. Composure. Claire had spent months lying to my face while curling up in my arms, while pouring my coffee, while asking if I'd remembered to take out the trash. She wore fidelity like a costume. Convincing, familiar, comfortable. Now I wore one too. I didn't pull away from her. I didn't accuse her. I didn't mention Jennings. I didn't breathe a word about the receipts or the hotel points or the sync logs she forgot existed. Instead, I played my part. Every I love you she gave me, I gave back. Every work trip she announced, I nodded. Every little routine she resumed, from movie night to grocery lists to date night, I smiled through it. Because she needed to believe I was still asleep. When people lie for long enough, they rely on you staying predictable. She counted on that, the Nathan who trusted her, who didn't dig, who apologized first. That's who she thought she was still dealing with. So I let her believe it. And the truth is, I started getting good at pretending. I'd catch myself matching her tone, using the same cadence she used when lying. I'd mirror her energy, her rhythms. She'd tell me about her late calls with the New York team, and I'd nod with the right amount of disinterest. When she laughed at a joke over dinner, one I used to think was fake, I learned to laugh too. It was a strange kind of power. Not healthy, but precise. She let her guard down little by little. Started with her phone. She began leaving it out again. Not always, but often enough to signal something. The screen would light up, and sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of names I didn't recognize. She still tilted it slightly away, but the tension had faded. She wasn't being cautious anymore. She thought she'd won. One night, while she showered, I checked her screen time analytics, still synced to our iPad from when we first set it up. I didn't have access to her texts, but I could see how much time she was spending on certain apps. Messaging, 2 hours a day. Instagram, back up by 30%. VPN usage, constant even at home. Whatever she was hiding, she was still working hard to keep it buried. But she didn't realize I already had it all. The next weekend, Claire suggested something unexpected. "Let's get away," she said casually, sliding her hand across mine at breakfast. "Just the two of us, like before." I nearly choked on my coffee. She hadn't suggested a trip in over a year, not one just for us. I studied her face. Soft expression, neutral body language. But her eyes flicked away too fast after the offer. "Where?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Somewhere simple. Just a weekend. I don't know, maybe the lake? Or the coast. We could drive up Friday night." I waited a beat. "You're sure?" She smiled. "Yeah, we need this." No, I thought. You need this. To reset the story. To throw me off the scent. To prove that nothing's wrong. And if I said yes, if I laughed and packed the car and toasted champagne at sunset, it would be another page in the fairy tale she was desperate to keep intact. So I said yes. We drove up to a small cabin near Cannon Beach. She picked the place. Rustic, cozy, overpriced. The kind of place couples go when they're trying to save something. She brought wine, made a playlist, wore one of the older sweaters I used to compliment. "I missed this," she said more than once that weekend. "I missed us." I played my part well. We hiked. We cooked. We danced in the kitchen while the rain tapped against the windows. We took photos. Selfies of us laughing, smiling, wine glasses clinking. She posted 2 of them later with the caption, "Sometimes you just need to slow down and breathe." Her followers loved it. So did her lie. But for me, every smile I gave was a silent count. Another mark against her. Another frame in the documentary I was quietly producing. The contrast between what I knew and what she said was dizzying. "Thank you for saying yes," she whispered that Saturday night, curled against me on the couch. "I always will," I lied, stroking her hair. She fell asleep in my lap, and I sat there in the dim cabin light, staring out at the trees swaying outside, wondering how long someone can sleep peacefully with guilt wrapped around their ribs. The answer? A long time, if they've practiced enough. When we got back, things felt lighter. For her. She started leaving the house more frequently, but with less explanation. She laughed easier, posted more, texted less carefully. The slip-ups began to multiply. She'd mention a location she supposedly hadn't visited yet, or tell a version of a story she'd already told me before, only now the details didn't match. One night she referred to a restaurant in Portland that she claimed was brand new, forgetting she'd once told me about going there 6 months ago, for the first time. These weren't catastrophic errors, just micro-glitches in the machine. But I documented every one of them. I started keeping a physical notebook now, in addition to the digital archive. Not just events, but her language, her tells. The way her voice tightened slightly when I asked about Jennings. The way she blinked a beat longer when answering, "Did you have a good day?" It became a kind of science, a study in betrayal. One night she brought up the future, asked if we'd consider moving. "Somewhere quieter," she said. "A fresh start. Maybe," I told her. "Let's talk more about it after your next trip." She nodded, smiling. "It's just a short one. Chicago. 2 days." I knew that wasn't true. She wasn't going to Chicago. The confirmation email in her inbox, synced to our home desktop, said otherwise. It said Denver. Same hotel chain. Same name listed under guest 2. But I let her talk about Chicago like it was real. I asked if she'd pack gloves. If she'd finally try deep dish pizza. If she'd send me a postcard. She laughed. Said she would. That night, I took a photo of her suitcase before she zipped it up. Inside was the silver bracelet I gave her last Christmas. The one she once told me she accidentally left at her sister's place. She looked me in the eye when she said that. Swore she hadn't seen it since February. Now it was nestled between a pair of heels and a silk blouse. I took another photo. The next morning, she left early. Kissed me twice. Told me not to wait up. Said she'd FaceTime me from the hotel after her meeting. She did. But the background didn't match the Chicago hotel chain she claimed to be in. The lamp was wrong. The wallpaper pattern was wrong. And most importantly, the curtains were closed. They were always closed. But I could hear a second voice. Distant. Male. Talking. She told me it was the TV. Sounded like someone. I said casually. She smiled. Just reruns. Of course it was. We ended the call shortly after. She said she was tired. That she'd call again in the morning. I stared at the freeze frame of her face on the screen. A woman I once trusted with my life now smiling through teeth worn down by lies. And still, I didn't confront her. Because I was almost done. She came back from Denver. Sorry. Chicago. Glowing. Relaxed. Light on her feet. Even more affectionate than usual. I played along. Let her think the weekend fixed something. She talked freely. Too freely. Tripped over old cover stories. Mixed up which trip had the rooftop bar. I nodded. I smiled. And I kept finalizing everything. Lawyer? Ready. Timeline? Clean. Documents? Filed. When I mentioned the bracelet I left for her at the Portland hotel, her eyes flickered. She smiled through it. Too fast. Too smooth. That's when I knew. She had no idea I was done pretending. I laid it all out, quietly, methodically. The receipts. The photos. The room bookings with his name. She didn't deny it. She exploded, then collapsed. Victim, then martyr. But the paper trail spoke louder. HR already had an anonymous package. Her job unraveled. I filed for divorce. No drama, no screaming, just strategy. She lost her career, her cover, her control. I didn't gloat. I just walked. The last time she had the upper hand was that hotel lobby. Every move after? Mine.